All righty, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, good morning. Whenever it is you tune in, hope all is going well. We're back. It's been a couple weeks, but here we are. I'm Noah.
It's me, It's good to be back, man. Lots changed. Lots
Yeah,
changed.
lots changed. My glasses changed. My headphones changed. My job changed. Um, yeah, a
Beard's
lot of things
all the way in
changed.
now.
Facial hair's changed.
The
It's
guy who
getting there.
stole the Super Bowl from us might be our next head coach.
That's going to be quite the change. So yeah, glad to see you guys. Glad to see everybody here.
Not to talk about today.
And
A lot to talk
welcome
about.
to the Falcons head coach Royal Rumble. We have 15 contestants, but before we announce who is joining and how we're going to do this, because I had an idea, and turns out we weren't going to be able to do it unless I paid an absurd amount of money. But nice to see you guys here. All right, so how this is going to happen. The rules of the Royal Rumble is this is going to be a 15-person over the top battle royale where it's every coach for themselves. The objective is to throw your opponent over the top rope, and if both feet touch the floor, they're eliminated from the match. How we're going to do this here is that I will let you guys, as the viewer, determine who gets eliminated in a poll. That we're going to try to figure out how to do that. What separates this from traditional battle royale is that the entrances into the match are staggered. So instead of everyone in the ring at the same time, the match will begin with two competitors in the ring, and after an interval, we got to talk about everybody and let them make their case. Another coach will enter the match. The order of entrance was arbitrary and completely random on our side. So I'm not going to reveal the order and to keep up the element of surprise. This is going to continue until every person has been talked about and every person has entered and been eliminated from contention. I drew this list from the Falcons head coach tracker. So everybody that's at least had one interview with the Falcons is on this list. If there's anybody else that has yet to been a part of an interview, well, we'll get there. I'm sure there's other coaching candidates that you guys might try to bring up, but now we're sticking with who the Falcons have already tried out for. This also includes a coach that already kind of got locked up, but we're going to include him in here anyways, just to keep the number a little bit even. So that being said, and yes, I do have a countdown as before we everyone. I don't have theme music for everybody. That's just going to take too long. All right. So, any other questions?
Questions, concerns, ideas.
Trey, any other questions?
I think I'm pretty caught up.
All right. So let's announce the first name that's going to be entering the ring. Like I said, I just used a random number generator, had a random list of coaches, and then just filled them out until I got everything new. All right. So give me just a second, and I'm going to show you entrant number 1. All right, entrant number 1, Brian Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, so we got entrant number 1. So get your thoughts in about everything from him. We're going to keep up with the list so we can tell you guys all that we know about him. And now let's get ready for entrant number 2. Number 2, Jim Harbaugh, head coach of
Of the
Michigan.
national title winning, should have been Bama, Michigan Wolverines.
So we know entrant number 1, we know entrant number 2. Brian Johnson, Jim Harbaugh. Let's figure out all that we can about them. I'm going to show you guys this head coaching tracker along with us. So let's get information about Brian Johnson. All right. So interview date was Thursday, January 18th. There's his resume accolades around here. I want to click on this tab real quick, though, in order to show you guys. Let's get this. All right. So the Falcons have completed a virtual interview with Brian Johnson for the organization's head coach position. The team announced Thursday, January 18th. The 36-year-old just wrapped up his third season overall with the Philadelphia Eagles. That's a dog barking. His first as the offensive coordinator with the team. His team lost 32-9 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I don't know how they are even completed. Anyways, in the wild card round, that was therefore eliminated from the NFL playoffs. The Eagles finished 11-6 in the regular season and officially became available to interview on Wednesday. Per NFL protocols, interviews with employees of other clubs must be conducted virtually prior to the conclusion of the divisional playoff games on Sunday, January 21st. If the employer club has a wild card bye, virtual interviews must be conducted prior to the conclusion of the wild card games. If the employer club has a wild card participant, virtual interviews may begin 3 days after its wild card game and must be conducted prior to the conclusion of the divisional playoff games. Beginning Monday, January 22nd, clubs may conduct in-person or virtual interviews with candidates who are employed by the other NFL clubs whose seasons have concluded and are prohibited from conducting initial interviews with candidates who are employed by clubs participating in the conference championship games or until the conclusion of the employer club's season. All right, so as we said, all right, let's talk about why he's a candidate. Let's go to this paragraph first. So the Falcons are in need of a new quarterback in 2024, and Johnson has a lengthy history coaching that position. Between his college and professional days, Johnson boasts 13 seasons of being a quarterback's coach in some capacity. That could be beneficial in not only attracting talent, but developing it quickly. Zooming out, Johnson did well in his first season as the Eagles' offensive coordinator. Philly finished out the regular season ranked within the top 10 in multiple statistical categories. That includes 5th in rushing touchdowns, 7th in points scored, 8th in total yards and rushing yards. It was number 16th in passing yards and touchdowns. Out of those same categories, the Falcons were only within the top 10 for rushing yards, and they were number 9. Johnson was the guy calling the shots for the Eagles too, so he has experience play calling in the NFL. The Falcons aren't the only organization showing interest in Johnson either. According to Adam Schefter, the Panthers want to interview Johnson, and Rappaport reported the same for the Titans. All right, now let's talk about the strikes against. Regardless of what he was able to do with the offense, Johnson has only one season of coordinator work at the professional level under his belt. Also, looking at the numbers, it seems the Eagles had more success running rather than passing the ball. The Falcons don't necessarily need help as much help. Okay, guys, need help as much help in the run game as they do in the pass game. The Eagles overall did take a step back offensively in 2023 too. All the categories listed were better in 22.
Well, first, let's talk about the season overall for the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, you all know they started off 11-1. Literally lost 6 straight. Their last 6 games, they lost each one of them. Well, no. They won the Giants game, so they started off 10-1. My fault. Started off the season 10-1, and ended the season off 11 1-5 or 1-6, however many you want to count that, because you got to include the playoff game. So,
Yeah,
um,
Decoman just said they lost 6 of the last 7.
yeah.
The
So,
only other win was against the Giants,
and they
and
nearly
even that
lost
one
those game too.
seemed, yeah.
I think it was like 33-25 or something like that. Um,
Like they just pulled away at the very end.
yeah, but it was. I mean, you could kind of hear from Eagles fans that the play calling wasn't as good as it was last year, and of course that happens when you coordinators very much um familiar with that, as we should all say. This kind of and this kind of reminds me of the Kyle Shanahan Sarkisian, like mix over. You know, I can't really call their last coordinator Kyle Shanahan because their offense was good, but it was like 2016 Falcons good. But they were scoring, putting up 29. I think it was 0.5 points per game. They were like second or third in the league. Of course, Jalen Hurts had an MVP type year. AJ Brown had over 1,000 yards. Devontae Smith had like 900. Um, and like it says in the article, every single stat that they had last year in 2022 was marginally better, especially in the passing game, than 2023 was. Um, so now, of course, you always have to have playmakers on the field. You can always call a play, but sometimes that play call gets bailed out. It seemed like a lot of his play calls were bailed out by AJ Brown a lot, just being AJ Brown, and it kind of showed during that Buccaneers game because they literally had nothing to go off of that entire game. Now, of course, it seemed like Jalen Hurts really only looked at Devontae Smith all game. He didn't really pass to Dallas Goedert, which is kind of weird. Didn't really pass to Olamide Zaccheaus, Quez Watkins, none of those guys. He was mostly, I think Devontae had like 10 or 11 targets, and they passed the ball like 33 times. So he of course looked at some other people, but most of the time his first look was at Devontae Smith. Um, but you could kind of tell that the play calling was lethargic. It was like, like what are we supposed to do if we can't tush push, or what are we supposed to do if we don't have AJ Brown to go up, run a 50-yard go route, and just head top two people while he's at it. So it kind of, I mean, I can see why, you want to hire him. He's been in the league for a while, been a QB coach. We do need a QB. But he just doesn't seem like the guy that I could be like, okay, yeah, that guy is gonna bring us to a winning season either in the first year or the second year, or get us to a Super Bowl. So yeah, I mean, we all know where we're gonna go with this pick, of course, between Jim and Brian. But uh, yeah, for me, if he was hired, I'd probably be highly upset. Not gonna lie to you. I feel like there's 17, well, not 17, but 10 other good candidates that's better than him.
Well,
Um,
before we get into that, because like, buddy,
yeah.
if you want to start shifting over into Jim Harbaugh, we can go
Oh
ahead and do
yeah.
that
Good old
since
Jimmy.
he's number 2. So
Good
let's
old
get him
Jimmy.
in here.
Hey Maggie.
Yeah, how's it going, everybody? All right. So his resume highlights. Well, we just saw what he did at. Um, the only other highlights, I tried to look at the story, but there wasn't really anything else there. Harbaugh has spent the past 9 years as head coach of the University of Michigan, leading the Wolverines to a college football national playoff championship in 2024. Prior to Michigan, Harbaugh spent 4 seasons as head coach for the 49ers, and pretty much each of those years, other than 2014, they went to like at least the NFC Championship game.
That was a pretty good run for Jim, especially coming from Stanford, and they didn't really win any. They didn't win any national championship games, but they were still very competitive. I think the last year he was at Stanford, they won like 12 games. or 11 games, if I read that correctly. So wherever he goes, success comes with it. So might take a while, of course, as you've seen. He's first national championship game and well title in 9 years. But he, if you look at what Michigan's done in the last, I mean, you could say 9 years, but if you just look at what Michigan's done since really like 2021, falling short a couple of times, other than the Georgia semifinal game where they just got completely demolished. But he's always kind of had good talent. He always utilizes his talent. He's a big trenches guy. If you follow college football a lot, Michigan is always, especially in the last 5 years, Michigan's always kind of had um, a top five O line, top three O line in the country. Now, when they get drafted to the NFL, are they good? Jalen Mayfield, it's 50-50. But that's with any school, you can't really blame him for what he did. Well, what his kids did in the NFL. That's on them. That's on the team that drafted them in the coaching. So, um, yeah, but he's always been kind of the guy to send out good talent to the NFL. He's a pretty hard nosed coach, gets the best out of his guys, who was able to win a national championship with JJ McCarthy out of all people. Not saying JJ's a bad quarterback, but he's literally the fifth, sixth ranked quarterback in the draft this year. So, being able to do that, still having the top 10 defense, even when, some of his star guys leaves, DJ Turner, Aiden Hutchinson, all those guys, those, to still be able to coach good talent and hire all the right guys and bring in all the right people kind of intrigues me. And then of course what he did with the 49ers, 3 straight NFC championships appearances, 1 Super Bowl, lost to his brother in the Super Bowl, and then of course that last year when they went 8-8, he ultimately left to go to Michigan. But like I said, it seems like anywhere he goes, success follows, whether that's championships, deep runs in the playoffs, winning 11, 12 games. It's just he's always in the thick of things when it comes to one of the good teams in the NFL or college.
All right. So now that we have that info, I want you guys to give me your opinion on how this matchup is going so far. Because, as D. Coleman is providing some color commentary, Harbaugh just instantly super kicks Brian Johnson out of the ring and does a heel style promo as he awaits the entrant number 3, and very similar to how CM Punk was in 2010. All right, so are we good?
We are
Should
good.
Should we start announcing the next guy?
Yes, sir.
Hang on, we know what to do here. All right. Entrant number 3 is. Give me the picture. Give me the picture. Give me the picture.
Come on, StreamYard. Don't do us like this.
Raheem Morris. Entrant number 3.
So
This
as you
just
guys
happened
see,
this morning, I want to say.
yeah. Also, we did just finish. They just announced our interview with Joe Brady on the story. But okay, so I want to ask you this before I kind of explain him. Do you think it'd be awkward to be like, yeah, you were our intern 4 years ago. You did decent with the talent you had around, 1-4 out of when did we fire Dan Quinn? We were 0-5. Yeah. So you won 4 out of the last 6 games. Well, you won 4 out of the last 12 games. Um, I mean, we want to hire you, but then again, we just chose a guy that we just fired over you 4 years ago. Like, wouldn't that kind of be a little awkward, especially if he comes in here and then it's like he wins 12, 10, 11, 12 games his first year, takes us to the playoffs. We're going a little deep playoff run or something. It's like, why didn't we just keep this guy 4 years ago?
Yeah, there's a couple of other people which you can take a look at. It's like they had success and then they just get abandoned because the success wasn't really expected and people didn't really like that it happened. And then a couple years later, they start making their mark again, making attention in the January 2024 headlines. This is very much Jinder Mahal-like. Just
most definitely. But on to good old Raheem.
All right, so let me take a look at this real quick. Actually, I mean, yeah, let me see what this is here.
I almost forgot he coached the Buccaneers. Seems so long ago.
All right, let me just go ahead and do that. And this one. All right, so why he's a candidate. Well, a lot has changed within the Falcons organization since Morris was last in Atlanta. For starters, salary cap space is not an issue, and the roster has been completely rebuilt from where it was in 2020. Morris would be taking over a completely new team than the one he left. He would only have a few holdovers from that 2020 season, namely Grady Jarrett, Jake Matthews, and AJ Terrell. The reason Morris would fit in Atlanta now is much the same as why he was named the interim in the first place 3 seasons ago. Morris is a respected coach with varying levels of experience. Morris has been candid in the past, and he didn't think he was ready for a head coaching position when he earned that title with the Bucs in 2009. That is not the case anymore, as nearly a decade and a half passed, with Morris racking up experience as a defensive play caller, head coaching with the interim job for the Falcons. At every stop, Morris has garnered respect from players too, showcasing an ability to connect with the people around him. Because of this, his leadership, qualifications, and previous history with the organization, Morris could be a top candidate for Atlanta. However, strikes against. The only strikes against Morris are the devil's advocate of his connection to the organization. Namely, the Falcons have already had Morris in a head coaching position. If Raheem ends up 11-0, he's certainly going to be a candidate, Blank said when announcing Morris as the interim head coach in 2020. I think it's to Raheem's advantage. I know his aspirations long-term is to be a head coach again. He has learned a lot since his Tampa days, and he's learned a lot with us. I think with 11 games, he'll have a chance to show his own capabilities, and I think he's looking forward to doing that. The Falcons did interview Morris for the job that ultimately went to Arthur Smith in 2021. So, what's changed between then and now? Quite a lot, actually, and here's the key counterpoint. Morris has another Super Bowl championship to his credit after experiencing one in 2002 when he was a defensive quality control coach with the Bucs. Also, the Rams have been to the playoffs in the 2 of the last 3 seasons. While the Falcons roster is arguably more talented from top to bottom than it once was, it still has room to grow. A few names carry over from 2020 to now, but little else. That's a big head interview.
Pretty much.
Oh, man.
What's going on, old friend? So Raheem, like you said, coached here basically from when Dan Quinn was hired to when Dan Quinn was fired. Has some head coaching experience. That's the one thing I think people forget, and why he's kind of back in the running, even though we basically fired him twice in the same season. Well, not really twice, but we fired the head coach and then we basically put you there. But if we didn't fire the head coach during the season, you would have been fired with him. So yeah, but does have knowledge of both sides of the ball, which is a plus. I like coaches that have done that before. There's a lot of coaches that are usually like tight ends assistants or tight end coaches, and then they stay on that side, or wide receiver coaches and they stay on that side. He had enough to go to the defensive side for a couple of years. and then defensive coordinate for a couple of years. Of course, he's doing that in Los Angeles now. They did. I can't really say they had an amazing game because they lit up 21 points in the first half. But after that first half, the Lions, I don't think had a drive go past the 50. Now, of course, you could say, well, maybe that last drive, they were just trying to ice the game right there. I can't really count that drive, but every other drive, they held them in check, other than the field goal that they had, which still, I'd rather take 3 points than seven for my opponent. So, um, he's been a pretty good defensive coordinator in Los Angeles. That whole team has just been a surprise, after everyone said they were going to be like 4-12. But it's kind of, I can't really say that, I like it over some other people. He is in my top 5 candidates, so I'll give you all that. But um if he was to come back here, it's like 50-50. Like, would it be okay, he comes back and it's like the year he went 10-6 with the Bucks, or is it like the year where he had losing seasons with the Bucks, or the interim year he had with us, which is what I'm kind of concerned about. But I wouldn't really say I'd hate the hire, because like I said, he's been great with pulling defensive talent. He just need a offensive coordinator to come in there and do his job, and then of course get a quarterback, which is really the two most important things that we need right now. So it's pretty close between him and Jim. I'll say that. Both are pretty successful. Just Jim, just a tad bit more successful because he's been here longer.
All right. So, from the looks of things, it seems we have two competitors in the ring right now because Brian Johnson already got super kicked over the top rope. Um, so now that we got our information on them, let's get the other competitor in here. All right. So number 4, Bobby Slowick.
My guy. Young guy too, ain't he? Like 36, 37?
He's probably around there. He take a look at that. Let's go ahead and look at this. Go back to the interview link with him. I think I'd be ready for this. Oh. Good. All right. So, he's a current Houston Texans offensive coordinator. Where he was last at was in San Francisco. He served as the defensive quality coach before moving over to offensive assistant coach 2 seasons later. Slowick also had offensive passing game specialist and offensive passing game coordinator titles in the next 2 seasons, respectively. And then before them, he was a part of that. I don't know how. The more that we learn about this Washington coaching tree in 2013, Slowick started as a video assistant and moved up to defensive assistant coach a season later for the rest of his tenure there. Editor's notes for them. The Falcons editorial staff is independently aggregating reports of Falcons interview requests from select reporters without confirmation from the team. The full list of reporters are all these people. So if you see someone like Cam Marino or someone, then yeah, don't trust it. Anyways,
saying don't trust scammers, basically.
Don't know. Is that a hot take this year?
Yeah, maybe. All right, good old Bobby. Um, kind of okay. So the one thing that that people kind of knock on him is that this is his first year play calling, like being an offensive coordinator. Now, of course, if you compare that to a lot of people's other first years, he's probably been one of the best offensive coordinators in the league, and really maybe in the last 2 or 3 years. Um, took CJ Stroud, turned him into a Pro Bowl quarterback, maybe an All Pro quarterback. Um, just one of the top rookies, just in general. One of the top players in the league, just in general. And in my opinion, if CJ Stroud didn't get hurt, he probably ends up. I wouldn't say MVP. I wouldn't stretch it that far because I don't think they give MVP to a rookie. But he'd probably be a lock for offensive rookie of the year. But now it's like a flip flop between him and Puka. So yeah, that. But for him to take that young offense with a kind of iffy offensive line, I mean, let's all be honest here. The Texans they don't have our offensive line. You know, they got Larry Tunsil. Both their tackles are good, but other than that, everybody else is pretty much average to above average players, which is nothing wrong with that. You know, they've done a decent job from what they're capable of. So that's a good thing about that. Um, but from him being a first year coordinator to going straight to being a head coach the year after kind of screams like, do you want to wait a year to see if you can do it again? Or do you just say we're going to take the chance? Because that almost happened with Joe Brady. Remember, Joe Brady was a coordinator with LSU back in, what was that, 2021, 2020?
Or was it
And
2019?
yeah, 2019. And then he went to the Panthers um, to go be the offensive coordinator there for Matt Rule, and then he almost got the head coaching job with us back in 2021 after 1 year being an offensive coordinator. Now, of course, they didn't. That offense was nowhere near as good as the Texans' offense has been this year, but that's just a kind of a similarity between the two. But Slowick, I feel like if you get Bobby Slowick, you're not going for a veteran quarterback. That's the one thing. If you do hire Bobby Slowick, I don't think you go for a Kirk Cousins or a Geno Smith or a Russell Wilson or what other quarter Jacoby
Would
Brissett.
that in- would that include Justin Fields?
I don't really it's I can't really say no to that because Justin Fields is basically on his 5th year option. He is only 25 this year, I think. Yeah, 24, 25 this year. So I can't really call him a super vet like those guys because those guys have been in the league for at least 10 years minimum. Um, so I can't really include that. Now, if you do hire Bobbick, that's why I was probably going to say next. If you do hire Bobbick, it's between Justin Fields or anybody in the draft. And really, when I mean anybody, I mean Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Jacob Daniels, maybe Michael Penix. Because I just don't think you hire a young head coach that has been pretty good with young quarterbacks over the years, either coaching them or, of course, this year coaching the entire offense and helping them succeed. Just for you to go hire, I mean, not hire, but sign or trade for a older vet that might not be here for long, and now you're switching quarterbacks again. So, yeah, but overall, he has been a that I would that would probably he's in my top 5. So I would love that hire. Of course, he's innovative. He's very creative. He runs a lot of play action, runs a lot of cross meshing routes, gets guys open, check downs if you need to. He runs the ball too. And he doesn't run the ball a lot like Arthur Smith did, running the ball 25, 30 times a game. Now, of course, when you have Bijan, they don't have a Bijan or a Tyler Algier over there. So, you don't really want to run the ball 20 to 25 times a game. But, well, not 20, but 25 to 30 times a game. But, him coming over here, I feel like he'd have a lot more fun and innovative ways to include the run game. And then you got Kyle Pitts, you got Drake London, probably going to end up drafting a wide receiver in the first rounds or signing a wide receiver with the amount of cap space we have. So, yeah, he'd be one of my favorite hires if we did end up making that decision.
All right. So, yeah, welcome to 2024 streams where, yeah, we're still having audio and connection issues over here. So, before we get into the actual action that's happening in the ring, I just want to confirm, did Raheem Morris get eliminated? I want more confirmation from everyone else in the chat. I'm just trying to keep tabs of who's still in the ring and who's not. Unless Raheem Morris is trying to do some Kofi Kingston spot. So far, I have Jim Harbaugh, Raheem Morris, and Bobby Slowick in the ring. And we will be waiting for contestant number 5. All right, everybody. Anybody else agree here? As we wait for that, I had a question from Clay Elton here. How hard will it be to get a decent offensive coordinator if we go defensive head coach?
No one really ever knows that question because most offensive coordinators come from guys being run game coordinators, passing game coordinators, or QB coaches. Like Arthur Smith was a tight end coach before he was brought on to be an offensive coordinator. Matt LaFleur was a passing game coordinator. Mike McDaniels was the passing game coordinator for the 49ers before he got hired. Well, passing game and then OC and then head coach. But you can't really say it'll be hard to get one. You just kind of have to take a shot on somebody that's on your staff or somebody else's staff and then just go with it and hope it works out. Like Kyle Shanahan and Mike McDaniel and Bobby Slowick, Ben Johnson, all those type of guys that, came from, a certain position. And then, of course, you're calling the whole offense now. So it's like it's a 50-50 shot on whether you got the right guy or the wrong guy. You just have to get the right mix of players for him, get the right quarterback for him, of course, and see where it takes you.
Well, I don't see anybody defending Raheem Morris, so I'm going to go ahead and put on my notes that he got eliminated. So I'm gonna keep Bobby Slowick in here in the ring for a little bit longer. But as I do that, let's get this. All right, ready? Next up,
Mike McDonald.
Mike McDonald. I'm just saying, just off of build alone, he's clearing everybody in the ring.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, he is.
He's fighting him, but I'd rather
just taking all sorts of bumps.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get some info on Mike McDonald.
Might get a
All right.
piece from you.
Let's take a look at why he's a candidate. Just realized I might have spelled his name wrong. I definitely did spell his last name wrong. Anyways, McDonald's is an important part of a Ravens squad that stands as the AFC's number one seed heading into the playoffs. His Ravens defense is first in scoring, first in takeaways, and sixth in total yards allowed during a 2023 regular season where Baltimore went 13-4. The Ravens defense also ranked top 10 in all those categories the year before, too. Further evidence that McDonald knows how to command a defense. McDonald's in command, per Adam Schefter, with the Falcons among 5 teams requesting interviews with him as part of their head coaching search. The Falcons are looking for someone to push a talented roster over the top into serious and regular contention for division titles and playoff wins. McDonald has been a part of a winning organization, good at doing exactly that. McDonald said on Thursday that he has learned a lot from Ravens head coach John Harbaugh and the culture he helped build in Baltimore, and would take those learnings and apply it to any role he took with another organization. That would be a positive for the Falcons franchise looking to usher in a period of sustained success. The person that he, or Harbaugh, is, and the leader that he is, you just have great role models that you look up to and that are high integrity and high character individuals and just phenomenal leaders, McDonald said. So they're easy guys to follow. And if and when that opportunity presents itself, obviously you want to model that behavior after them. All right. Strikes against. McDonald is relatively young, at just 36 years old, and has just 3 years experience as a coordinator. That may count against him, though hiring younger head coaches has become more commonplace in recent seasons.
So, of course, this guy is coaching as we speak right now. I think the game is tied 10-10, but CJ Stroud is doing his big one, carving up the defense on 3rd and 13s and completing 30-yard passes to Nico Collins. But they are moving the ball right now with 40 seconds left, 3rd and 8 at Baltimore's 29. So,
Man, look at us announcing playoff games and Royal Rumbles. I'm calling both games.
yes, we are, man. That's what we do here at AFM. We multitask. You won't ever see it anywhere else. But Mike McDonald, of course, as we just pretty sure if he was the one walking up on Dennis Allen 2 weeks ago, I think things probably would have ended up a little bit differently. Not gonna lie, Dennis Allen may have been more scared than he was. Just gotta laugh. Even though we got blown, I just have to laugh at that. They have a just sorry, pathetic head coach. Like, just wow. But I can't say I'd be ecstatic about this hire, but I can't say I'd be mad about it either because of the defense that he's made in Baltimore. And I can't really say he made it because John Harbaugh is a defensive guy, so he takes very seriously the trenches and the front seven, and he takes the back end seriously, but the front seven is more important to him, of course, as you've seen with all the signings and trades they made and draft picks that they've sent into the front seven really over the last 3 years, really since he became the Ravens head coach, but especially over the last 3 years with Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen and all that. Now McDonald, of course, you can always say, well, he coached under John Harbaugh, so maybe if he brings that a little bit over to us, we can go from being the 10th best defense to the first best defense. Now, I can't really say that was a thing with the Dan Quinn thing because we didn't have a good defense back then, and we're coming off a season now where we had a top 10 defense, even though the last 2 games didn't show it. But, you can kind of see where things were heading. Players didn't look like they were all the way there in the right space of mind. You're playing for the playoffs. Things just don't look right. But he kind of runs a similar. He's kind of similar to to Ryan Nielsen. He loves to blitz, plays a lot of man, doesn't play a lot of zone, rushes with 4 most of the time. And his linebackers are very pivotal to what you do on the defense. Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen, more of Patrick Queen blitz. Blitzes a lot more. They tend to drop in coverage a lot, but the Ravens do play like a lot of man. It's like sometimes it's single high, sometimes it's too high, sometimes they'll just send 6, 7 guys at you and make you rush a pass. So when I take him over the two guys we have in the ring right now, it's kind of up for grabs. But like I said, we got coaches auditioning right now as we speak. Both two guys in the ring right now are auditioning against each other as we speak. So, yeah, I can't really say I'd be mad at it, but I wouldn't be ecstatic about it.
All right, so now with D. Coleman offering some more commentary, McDonald enters the Rumble, power slamming Harbaugh and Slowick. His strength is on full display. All right. So they mentioned about like how this pretty much one of his only knocks is that he's 36, right? I think why that matters is you just don't know the kind of coordinators that he would have underneath him, right? With Arthur Smith, he was 38 or something like that, and he was through his connection he was able to get Dean Pease, right? So I wonder who would follow along with McDonald's if he were to get a head coaching spot, and like who he would have as his regime, because he wants to get his other pieces. I don't think that he's going to interview for a head coaching spot only to settle as being a defensive coordinator again. All right, so you just never know sometimes, right? Because there's another coordinator that we have not seen in this list, as far as my knowledge, that could become a coach, but might stay as a coordinator, and that's Eric Bieniemy, right? So hard to tell sometimes.
Now he does have it's two options that I think he could go for defensive coordinator, and it's kind of the way Arthur Smith went when he first got here, hiring like an older type of defensive coordinator. That would be the Ravens D line coach, Eric Weaver, and then dang it, I just had the man's name. The old Ravens and was just New York Giants defensive coordinator last year. Well, this year. But he basically quit. Dang, what was his name? Not Greg Roman, that was offensive coordinator. Let me look him up. Making this harder on myself. We have technology, man. That's what it's for. Yeah, Don Martindale.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah, so
It's Donna Wink.
Wink Martindale. So he could. Those are like two guys that you probably be like, okay, if you're gonna hire a young coach, because it seems that's like what a lot of coaches do, or well, young coaches do. Guys that are like in their mid to late 30s. They kind of hire these older defensive coordinators and then young offensive coordinators. Dean Pease for example, or I forgot the defensive coordinator Sean McVay hired when he first got the Rams job. Older guy, coach for like 4 or 5 teams.
Oh, Vic Fangio?
Yeah. No, wait.
No, Wade Phillips?
Yeah, Wade Phillips. Yeah. But yeah, it seems like that's kind of the move for these young head coaches. Their first year, go get a older defensive coordinator, see how it works out. Now, Wink Martindale worked out. Dean Pease, he didn't really have as much talent. He tried doing his best with it. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Wade Phillips had a Rams defense looking unbeatable half most of the season into the playoffs. So, yeah, but that's probably where he could go, where his two connections could be those two right there, since he's been on the coaching staff with both of those guys for some years now.
All right. Well, I think it's about that time again. Who is entrant number 6? we have this is I had this idea a while ago and I was trying to make it into the number. So yeah, he's gonna get like
Billy
Santino Morella.
Spear.
Man.
Right through him.
Okay. Well, that was entrant number 6.
I guess we can congratulate the Raiders on actually doing something right for the first time, though.
You know what? I'll give them props too, because they got themselves a fierce coach, a fierce Pierce.
I feel like
intended.
I feel like if they didn't know Max Crosby and Devontae Adams were going to want to be traded, they would have signed somebody else. That's just my feeling, but he didn't really look like he was going to get the job until they were like, "Oh, yep, Max Crosby's going to leave if you don't hire him." So it's either Max and Antonio, or Antonio, you keep Max. You know.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me get the other guy already. It was number 7. We have Ben Johnson.
Everyone's favorite.
All right, let's take a look at Ben Johnson's accolades. Okay, so he's the current Detroit Lions defensive coordinator. He's been there since 2019. Johnson began as the offensive quality control coach, but switched it to tight ends in his second position. Then he became the offensive coordinator 2022, where he remained his past season. Before that, he was in Miami ever since 2012, it'd be his first year under Ryan Tannehill. He started as an offensive assistant, then transitioned into the assistant quarterbacks coach in 2012. Johnson added tight ends to his responsibility in 2015. He moved to assistant wide receivers coach from 2016 to 2017 before being promoted to the wide receivers coach in 2018. And then before that, he was in Boston College just a year or two after Matt Ryan, where Johnson served as a graduate assistant for 2 years before earning the role of tight ends coach over there. I think Pettigrew was over there with him, right?
I think so.
So that could have been like another name that he might have been around.
So, everyone's favorite, everyone's top guy, this is basically the 2024 Eric Bieniemy, because as we all saw back in 2021 before Arthur Smith was hired, everyone was begging for a Justin Fields, Eric Bieniemy collab. Still are begging for it, surprisingly, even though we've all seen what an Eric Bieniemy offense looks like without Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. So, Ben is basically, and you can I wouldn't compare him to Arthur Smith because both of these guys had kind of very different players, very different offenses, kind of the same quarterback rooms. You know, two guys that careers are kind of going down the drain. They get traded, both of them got traded to new places, and now their careers are booming again. But I'm trying to figure out what can I really say. Okay, the thing about Ben Johnson is he is going to involve literally everyone, and I mean everyone on offense, whether that is your second tight end, second wide receiver, third wide receiver, fourth. He's gonna include everyone. He's gonna make everyone.
You're an eligible third left tackle or whatever.
Yes. Like he's might just make Chris Lindstrom go to tight end on a jumbo package at the one play action, and
then they're going to call, oh man, Jalen Mayfield was eligible, but he's not even on the field. Anyways.
Well, he's not even on the team. Still 15-yard penalty. Redo this second 2-point conversion. But yeah, he's very creative. I'll give him, he is very, very creative in how he involves everyone. and how he gets everyone involved and how he just makes this like a very quarterback friendly system. He runs the ball a lot. I think they're top 10 in the league in rush yards per game. He really kind of regenerated David Montgomery's career. Here I think David Montgomery had over 1,000 yards for the first time in his career this year. Of course, had 10 touchdowns, 10, 12 touchdowns this year. Jameer Gibbs, he just had him everywhere from the slot to running routes out the backfield, doing stretch and toss plays and motioning guys all over the place. Amon Ra had a freaking career year. And if it wasn't for Tyreek Hill having the nearly historic year that he had, I think people would have been paying more attention to what Amon St. Brown did, which was have over 1,300 yards. It's got snubbed from the All Pro list and Pro Bowl list, which is kind of crazy to me.
Oh, don't worry. He's going to have full memory of that.
Oh yeah, very much, very much. He's already naming every single wide receiver that went before him. So
he's naming every person that voted in the Pro Bowl that wasn't him.
Yeah. It's kind of getting corny, but when you think about it, it's like, you know what? Just use anything that can fuel you, man. At this point, I can't really blame you. Just use anything that'll fuel you. I'm not gonna hate on you. But yeah, he's a very big trenches guy, runs the ball a lot, does a lot of play action. Really the reason Sam Laporta, yes, guys, Sam Laporta, the third round rookie tight end from guess what? Iowa tight end university. Might as well just call that tight end university because no one else comes there that's actually good, but tight ends and left tackles. Um, but yeah, he used Sam Laporta a lot, crossing routes, play actions, screen passes. Yes, he even used him on play action screen passes. Um, these little late release passes. And when you think about it, the Lions don't have these top tier talented guys on offense at the wide receiver position, other than Amon-Ra St. Brown. You got Jamison Williams, where he's like an on and off type of thing. You know, he's not what we all expected, or he hasn't really reached that potential to where we all expected. Josh Reynolds isn't really like like he's just your amazing number two wide receiver. And other than that, you don't really have any other wide receiver you can really trust to get open or catch a pass and make it a good play other than Amon-Ra St. Brown, sometimes Jamison Williams. But now I will say his passing game and the passing concepts that he used are beautiful. They just would probably run laps around what Arthur Smith was doing here, and especially what he was doing in Tennessee with all the deep post and everything. Like he just runs so many passing concepts and 21 personnel, 11 personnel, 12 personnel. It's just he can run so many things with so many different guys and so many different versions of it. It's like you don't know who to pay attention to. And then you can still run the ball. I'm still going to run the ball. I'm not going to be Andy Reid and run the ball 10, 12 times a game. Like, no, I'm going to run the ball 20 times a game. And I'm going to pass the ball 25, 30 times a game. He keeps it balanced. He makes sure that his quarterback isn't overwhelmed and like it's not all on Jared Goff's shoulders. Because if that was the case, I don't think they would have won 11 games this year. Was 11, 12 games? I think it was
11
games. Yeah, 11 games this year. So yeah, but he is probably one of the top guys. He's probably the hottest candidate out right now out of all the young coordinators between offense and defense, but really just in between anybody. And it's almost, you could almost put him in front of Jim Harbaugh. I wouldn't do it yet, but you could almost put him in front of Jim Harbaugh.
All right. Well, we're gonna have to keep things moving over here. Any eliminations that have happened, D. Coleman? Because so far we have Jim Harbaugh, Bobby Slug, Mike McDonald, and now Ben Johnson. Those four guys are in the ring, duking it out. So how do we feel? Anybody we want to let go?
I like the what D said about, is he just a play caller or is he a coach and a play caller? Because Dan Campbell, let's be honest, if we were playing for Dan Campbell, we probably all want to run through a wall for the guy. So it's like, are you really like getting these guys like locked into the game? You're like, yeah, we're gonna do this, we're doing that. You guys are gonna just run through these guys. We're gonna dominate, or is that all Dan Campbell doing that and you're just calling, the perfect plays and helping each other out? Maybe that's it. I don't think that's it, but that's always a concern that people have with, offensive coordinators, with coaches like Dan Campbell, where it's like, what are you like? Are you like just play calling from the box or from the side, wherever you call his players, or are you like coaching these guys and play calling too?
Oh, oh, do we see Ben Johnson's feet hit the floor? I think he got clotheslined. I think he's still hanging on the middle rope. Very stressful. But we're gonna get into the next competitor. And it's going to be Steve Wilkes.
Man, oh man. Now,
So before we do that, let me show you guys why he's a candidate. All right. So, Wilkes is a respected defensive forward coach with over 15 years of experience at the NFL level. He has been a top candidate to land a head coaching position in many of the peak times of the coaching carousel in recent years, particularly after he took over as the Panthers interim head coach in October 2022. With Wilkes as the interim head coach, the Panthers went 6-6 in their final 12 games and actually moved up in the divisional standing to end the season tied for second in the NFC South after starting the 2022 season 1-4. Most recently, Wilkes has found significant success with the 49ers, a defense that ranks third in scoring defense and top 10 in yards allowed and defensive takeaways per game. However, strikes against. Though Wilkes has been an associate head coach and later interim head coach for the Panthers, he's only been a true head coach of an organization once. Wilkes was the Arizona Cardinals head coach in 2018. In that lone year, the Cardinals went 13-3. According to Pro Football Reference, that was the worst record for a Cardinals team since 2000. Cardinals parted way with Wilkes on December 31st, 2018, back when they had Josh Rosen as their starting quarterback.
Yeah. Now, Noah, I want to ask you a question, and I kind of want to know if you have this concern too. So we're kind of seeing what's happening in New York with the Jets and Robert Saleh. And I can't really say they're the same coach because Robert Saleh is a lot more emotional on the sideline. He's kind of like a literal players coach. He's like a player out there, just not on the field. But do you kind of feel like it's not really that hard to coach that 49ers defense with all the talent they have, especially in the front seven with Eric Armstead and Javon Kinlaw, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw. Even the safeties, are picking it up. Travarius Ward, all those guys. It's like, do you feel like he'll kind of end up being Robert Saleh 2.0?
Well, I think you're kind of saying that, assuming that Robert Saleh has been a terrible coach in New York. I think outside of Zach Wilson.
He hasn't really done much to help himself. Let's be honest. You were the one to take Zach Wilson.
As far as Steve Wilkes goes, though, these are both coaches that, had their opportunity, tried their best at getting a quarterback, and then there was a failed project, and then they're lingering on or trying to grasp for another quarterback, as they build the rest of the team around them, right? So it's a weird scenario that I don't want to see us repeat, of those trends that coordinator comes in after a while, becomes a coach, tries to draft a quarterback because that's what he's going to need to do. And then, both of them are going to fail eventually again. That's not what I want to have happen. Said Mike pointed out a while back, Wilkes hasn't stayed in one place for a long time. He goes from job to job. What has he built? So not saying that he can't build anything. It's just all this time in the NFL, we haven't seen anything that we can see and be like, okay, well, he's at least established this position group, or he's established this team for this roster for this season. There's not really that case that you can make for him. Now, we're still waiting on how he gets eliminated in this Royal Rumble. So, D. Coleman, whenever you can figure that out, how. Yeah, I mean, as far as like the job that he currently has, I guess it's very dependent on how they do in this playoff game too.
Tomorrow.
We can't really move forward on that. And plus it's going to matter because of how crucial it is to keep your worth, keep your reputation in the playoffs, because we've seen how Dan Quinn was.
Oh, yeah.
He just goes top defensive coaching candidate and then it's 48 points dropped on him.
Well, 41. Got to remember the pick six. 41. Okay. But still, it's still terrible.
It's still the most that Dallas has ever allowed in a playoff game.
And that's what a team that's been alive for like 90 years, 80 years.
And that's been, yeah, just. Oh, okay. So he says that he pays tribute to Rikishi as he enters the ring. As he dances, the other competitors surround Steve and promptly throw him out of the ring. Why Rikishi, though?
So,
all right.
let me explain a little about Wilkes before we throw him out of the ring.
Okay.
Of course. So, coaching-wise, of course, we all know what he did in Carolina when he came intern a couple of years ago from Matt Rule. Almost beat us the first time if DJ Moore didn't throw his helmet 15 yards after a touchdown. And if his kicker didn't sell him with a 35-yard field goal after they got a pick on Marcus Mariota. It seems like players love him. That's the one good thing, but that's kind of like all coaches, I mean, well, not all coaches. Some players don't really mess with coaches, but the guys that play hard that are actually, you can kind of see, yeah, we kind of like the coach. We got love for him. We kind of want to play hard for him. So that's a good thing. He does have this 40. It doesn't like the 49ers defense took a step off the gas from what they've been the last 3 years with Robert Saleh. Still fast, furious, hard hitting, great in the run game, great in the pass game, pass rushes still. I think they had over 50 sacks this year, or like high 40s. I know they had a lot of sacks. There's a condition. I know they had a lot of sacks. So yeah, that's kind of the good thing. Does have former head coaching experience. Yes, I'm going to count the interim experience because he coached for basically half of a season, nearly just the whole season. Because Matt Rule got fired in the first 4 games. I think they started 0-4. He got fired.
Like after week 5.
Yeah. So he basically coached a whole season. So I'll give him that. But yeah, I won't be ecstatic about this, but about the hire. Like I said, can't really hate it, but he's not like one of my top choices. Like, yeah, we gotta go get Steve Wilkes,
All right. I think that's gonna lead us to entrant number 9. It is
Bill Belichick? Oh, almost.
Anthony Weaver.
At least I got the almost age right. Anthony Weaver's like in his 50s, so I almost got the age right. Jesus, Baltimore.
Oh yeah, dude, this is. Am I looking at Bobby Lashley's dad? Like,
Jesus. Almost looks like The Rock if he didn't have a beard.
Yeah, that's like the goatee that he had back in 2012 or something.
Wow.
All right. Well, that Let's talk about what he's done. All right. So he's the current Baltimore Ravens assistant head coach / defensive line coach. Now, why he's a candidate? Well, the Ravens defensive line has been dominant under Weaver's guidance in the past 3 seasons. In 2021, his first with the unit, the front was number 1 in rushing yards allowed. In 2022, it took a step back, but it only number 3. Then in 2023, it took a further step back to number 14. But this past season, the Ravens defensive line only let 6 rushing touchdowns slip by, which was fewest in the league. I think we only had like a couple later, but most of them were to quarterbacks. According to Weaver's profile on the Ravens website, Weaver helped lead the team's 2023 offensive coordinator search, which ultimately led to Ton Monken receiving the job. That goes to show that Weaver has what it takes to be involved in major personnel conversations that would be required by a head coach. Weaver is far from new to the NFL, too. He has been a coach in some capacity for 12 years and was a player for 7 years prior to the jump. Perhaps why the Falcons aren't the only team in need of a head coach showing interest in Weaver. Adam Schefter reports the Washington Commanders also requested permission to interview Weaver. However, strikes against. It is 2 sentences. Okay. Falcons owner Arthur Blank has hired first-year head coaches in the past, but will he do so again given the team's recent lack of success? Weaver would be one.
Hey, Noah, Trey, have y'all looked at news?
I have not. Welcome to the stream.
Welcome. It's breaking news, everybody. Breaking news here. Looks like we got our head coach.
Oh no, Stone Cold, breaking glass.
Say the name. I just dropped it off into the hold on, let's see. Everybody. Let's see. It says, according to Ian Rappaport, the Falcons have agreed to terms with Bill Belichick to make him their new head coach. Per sources, this was a move that was going to happen all along. Belichick was in contact with Arthur Blank an hour after Bill announced he was parting ways with the Patriots. And it was just about understanding what Bill would be in control of. And early today, they agreed upon a deal. And now Bill Belichick will become the Falcons' new head coach.
Oh, wow.
Well,
video, man.
the timing of this stream. Wow. Anybody else have the going on right now? That video.
I'm also looking elsewhere because I seen somebody posted it, so I'm just making sure. This is what I'm seeing, but this is what I'm seeing, so I'm finna just confirm it. Everybody can confirm it with me. Let's see. Yeah, here it goes. JPL Football is saying they are coming in hot. Patriots head coach. Yep, I'm seeing it. Check your Twitter.
Trying to restart it.
Check your Twitter. Let's see. Need them to refresh this thing. Come on.
Ravens just scored too, so it's 17-10.
Let's see. I'm trying to see some more sources, y'all.
Yeah, I mean, if this is true, Clay, I mean, this is like pure WCW Goldberg fashion where he just goes in and wrecks things up.
I'm going to go to Ian's report because I need to see that officially because I've seen it.
I'm gonna check the website for the Falcons right now.
Oh yeah, I'm looking now. I'm looking. We waiting, y'all. Wait a minute. I'm just trying to. I might be premature. I just seen somebody else posting it. It was his thing, and I'm like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. This could be one of those. Okay, you know, I like to check my stuff.
During a divisional game would be crazy, Mr. Blank. Wow.
You know what? We're gonna wait on it, y'all. Oh, I hate when people do that shit. It was literally his post, y'all. Well, I'm here. We have interviewed. The last post he made was an hour ago. Lord, I hate people. I hate people. So we still in the ring with it until I can confirm it.
All right, so we try to receive some Royal Rumble leaks already. Yeah, who's doing this? Is this Ryback? Is that what's going on? Is he trying to ruin this Rumble for us? I spent like an hour and a half trying to work on this idea. We are finishing the rest of this Rumble. I don't care if you know the results, all right? The show will go on. And I gotta get the... All right. And I'm having to remember where I was. So I think it's fairly obvious now that a couple people need to be eliminated from the ring. So who's first in line? We got Jim Harbaugh, Bobby Slugg, Mike McDonald, Ben Johnson, and Anthony Weaver in the ring right now. We're going to be hoping for contestant number 10.
Well, now, if we do remember, the most successful head coach out of the 2021 carousel between Saleh, McDaniel, Campbell, Arthur Smith, and Brian Daboll is that Campbell was actually the only one that wasn't an actual coordinator. He was a position coach. I think he was it was something on defense. What position coach was he? I'll remember this later. But yeah, he was the only one out of those 5 that wasn't a actual offensive or defensive coordinator. I think he was a special teams coordinator. That's what it may have been. He may have been a special teams coordinator. But like Weaver doesn't really coach a whole side of the ball, more coaches on that side of the ball, but a position, a group of it. But if it was between me, I'd probably spear Anthony Weaver over the top rope with an extra slam just to add on to it, and then throw a chair right on.
Okay, well, Trey's trying to personally get in the ring and eliminate Anthony Weaver himself. But before we do that, or as that's happening, number 10 is going down the list. And it is going to be Aaron Glenn.
Didn't we just enter an interview with him today?
I think
it was it yes? Yeah, that was because I know we have an interview with Ben Johnson.
It was yesterday.
Yeah, I knew it was sometime recent.
All right, let me take a look at why he's a candidate. All right. Glenn has been instrumental in leading the best Lions season in recent memory with an NFC North title and playoff win to Detroit's credit thus far. While the team's defensive metrics aren't all that great, the Lions have played well in critical moments and have done a good job developing young players into valued contributors. Glenn has a reputation as a strong leader and who is well respected for his scheme and his standout playing career. He was also rated as a top coordinator in the NFL by an NFL Players Association poll, a sign that he can be a good locker room culture and generate the buy-in required to get a football team playing together. Also, the NFLPA survey results could suggest that having a well-liked personality in the top spot could galvanize the Falcons around a strong leader of the roster. However, strikes against. The Lions' league rankings haven't been stellar this season. There's 23rd in scoring defense, 20th in opponent yards per game, and 30th in opposing passing yards per game, though their efforts have been against the run have been solid. The Lions were 28th in scoring defense and 32nd in total yards in 22, and 31st in scoring and 29th in total yards back in 2021. So it's more of a recent resurgence with his abilities with this roster. All right. Since we don't know anything, how are we feeling?
So, with the defense for the Lions, I'm not gonna lie. Their cornerback positions aren't really their just whole secondary isn't the best. They have Emmanuel Mosley, Cam Sutton, CJ Gardner-Johnson, a couple of other guys that they had. Of course, CJ Gardner-Johnson got injured in like the second game of the season. That might have been the first game of the season, but he did come back.
So. I mean, they did have Brian Branch as a rookie.
Yeah,
they do have Kirby Joseph as safety. He's played out a lot.
Now, Brian Branch probably out of all those guys has probably been the best, but he still has his hookups. Of course, he's a rookie, so you kind of expect those either way. It kind of seems like the defense will get worse with him. I don't know if he'd call plays. That's the one thing you never know about these coaches until they kind of announce it a couple of days or a week after they're hired, is that they'll either be calling plays. Some of the guys just announce it right in the interview. Yeah, I'm not going to be calling plays. I'm going to hire coordinators to do that for me. Like Arthur Smith did when he was like, yep, I'll be calling plays. Yep, don't even worry about it. I'll hire offensive coordinator, but, he's just going to help. He's not taking anything away from me. But, yeah, that's kind of what it looks like. You just never really know. If he is calling plays, I wouldn't really have high hopes for the defense, even with all the talent we have on defense. I mean, I like the Lions defense is just like voidless of talent. Aiden Hutchinson. I keep forgetting how to say the linebacker's name.
Which one?
Alex.
Anzalone?
Anzalone. Yeah. Alex Anzalone, Aiden Hutchinson. Really just that entire front seven of the Lions defense is pretty darn good. The secondary still needs some help, of course. Probably get a couple of younger guys in there to help with that. Of course, they got a stud in Brian Branch who just can literally play anything, anywhere, anytime. Want to play single out safety? We can do that. Want to go in the box? Do that. Want to play man coverage? Oh, yeah, can we do that too? Oh, you want to blitz? Oh, yeah, we can do that too. Want to have a mouthpiece at the top of your helmet? We can do that too. I think he can even play corner too if he needed to. Can play in the slot, can play outside. Boy, long day today. But yeah, it's kind of I don't know. I don't really know what I would expect with that hire. It all really come down to who he hires as the offensive coordinator and who the quarterback is, whether sign, trade, or draft. Because he's the one coach you just don't know what you could do. Like you could sign a guy like a Kirk Cousins or sign or trade for a guy like Kirk Cousins, Geno Smith, Justin Fields, those type of guys. Or you could go draft a guy like Bo Nix, Jane Daniels, Michael Penix, those type of guys like that. So with him, just really never know. Hey, you might just say, let's run it back with Desmond Ritter with a real QB coach and see what happens. Even though I think no head coach who ever comes here will do that, but you never know.
All right, so let's get some commentary from B. Coleman. He says Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn get some tag team action going on themselves. Johnson considers turning on his partner, but the team up on Mike McDonald. So according to D. Coleman, Mike McDonald has been eliminated. Is there anybody else that wants to defend Mike McDonald here? Anybody coming to his aid before both feet touch the ground? Just as a recap, we have Jim Harbaugh, Bobby Slowick, McDonald, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn together, and the next competitor will be number 11.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Well, hang on. Just get this down. Okay, here you go. There, get that right there. And it is
Good old Mike
Vrabel. All right. Well, let's get the information caught up with him. R-Truth, he's not in the Royal Rumble. All right. Anyways. All right. So we all know that Mike Vrabel's been a Titans head coach since 2018. 6 seasons, led them to the playoff 3 times. He took Tennessee to the AFC title game in 2019. He parted ways after a 6-11 season just now. Before then, he was in Houston since 2014. He first joined an NFL staff for the first time after being named Texans linebackers coach, a job he executed from 2014 to 2016. He was promoted to defensive coordinator for the next season. And then before then, he actually spent some time in Ohio State. Vrabel's first coaching job came with the Buckeyes, who named him linebackers coach in 2011 after a stellar NFL playing career. He was Ohio State's defensive line coach for the next 2 seasons. And then obviously we know his kind of resume as a player.
All-star with the good old New England Patriots.
All right, well, I guess I can confirm that Mike McDonald has been eliminated. So, entrant number 2, 4, 7, 10, and now 11 are left. 5 people. And only 4 more to go.
You know, the more I think about it, the more I always ask myself, why did Mike Vrabel get fired? I mean, they literally took everything away from him. You traded A.J. Brown for Treylon Burks, basically. That didn't work out. You gave him no quarterback. Well, I mean, you gave him a quarterback, but it was Ryan Tannehill. Come on.
And you should have given him 2 more quarterbacks.
And that barely worked out. The reason he got fired was because of him. You traded away who was the safety that just traded away?
Kevin Byard?
Yeah, you just traded away Kevin Byard. He did absolutely nothing in Philly. I mean, you're just taking away talent. The drafts really never hit.
Yeah, what happened to that? They drafted a tackle. Was it Isaiah Wilson?
No, that was the
Patriots. The Dolphins.
That was the Patriots who did that one. And then he went to the Dolphins, and then he just got kicked out of the league. I know who you're talking about though. The Georgia guard, 2020 draft,
No,
2021.
He was like a first round pick
Yeah.
or something like that, and then
Yeah, that was a 2021 draft where he literally got cut in his first year. Didn't even finish out his rookie year, his rookie contract. He got cut his
it
first
was
year.
Wilson. It was the Titans.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Oh wait, so was that Isaiah Wynn who got drafted to the Patriots? Because I know it was two terrible drafts that they took a tackle and he just was complete
Isaiah
garbage.
Wynn. That was back in 2018. He was a first rounder selected by the Patriots. Went to Miami.
Yeah. That's
But yeah, that was a couple years later. I was thinking of Isaiah Wilson. I think is his name.
Yeah. He's the guy that got cut his first year. That was who got cut his first year.
Yeah. 2020, first round.
Yep. That was now you kind of, like I said, you didn't really give him any help. You kind of did the best what he had. And to be honest, for him to be able to go 12-4 with that Titans roster, and I'm not saying they were just devoid of talent, but they weren't the most talented team in the league. Let's be honest. There were maybe 6, 7 other teams just in that conference alone.
I mean, had they Corey Davis was a top 5 pick.
Corey Davis was their number one wide receiver for what, 7 years? 6, 7 years?
Well, at least 3.
Arthur Smith made that man look like a all-pro wide receiver, man. What happened to that Arthur Smith, man? The Arthur Smith who wanted to use everyone, anyone, and everyone.
Just got caught up in his own mind.
Shifting your right tackle to the left and running to the right.
Having your tight end 2 throw to your tight end 3 while tight end 1 blocks.
Running an end around with your tight end 1 when you have Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, we can go on and on. Anyways.
Well, yeah. Of course, like I said, he made the playoffs 3 out of the 5 years he was in Tennessee. Of course, the last 2 years he didn't make it at all. Literally his worst 2 years as a head coach out of all 3, of course, when you don't make the playoffs. Those would probably be your worst years. Coming from the Belichick tree, he's probably the only head coach to come from the Belichick tree that had some type of success. Josh McDaniels, garbage. Joe Judge, garbage. Matt Patricia, not even going to mention him.
Bill O'Brien.
Bill O'Brien, garbage. Well, Bill O'Brien went to the playoffs for 3 years. So I guess you could say he did something, but still garbage. Brian Daboll is a work in progress right now, so we'll see either this year or next year if he's garbage or not. But it will kind of be awkward to be like, yeah, 3 years ago, we stole your OC. You had to hire OC, which is the reason you're fired now, because your OC that we hired, that you had the most success with, came here, did nothing. The OC you hired did nothing. So now you're both fired, and now we're going to hire you. There we go. Here's the key. Here's the keys. There's your office. Go get us a quarterback. Get yourself an offensive coordinator. Don't screw it up. Here's your second chance. Now, what I could see happening is if we do end up hiring Bill Belichick, because they say we have interest. We don't really have an interview lineup with him. We have interest in him. So what I could see is if Bill Belichick is like, okay, I'll hire you to be defensive coordinator. You work under me for about 3 or 4 years. After I retire, you're the new head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. I could see something like that, kind of like what he did with Gerard Mayo. What it is with him passing the torch to former players he drafted and coached, I don't know. But, yeah, it's kind of – you kind of see where I'm getting at here. But yeah. I wouldn't it's – would I take him over Jim or Ben or Bobby or even who's the other guy we got in here?
Well, we have Jim, Bobby, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, Mike Vrabel.
Okay, I'd take him over Aaron Glenn. I'd definitely take him over Aaron Glenn. But the other three, it'd be kind of hard to take him
So,
over.
D. Coleman, what do you see? Is Aaron Glenn getting eliminated? Who's doing it? Is it Ben Johnson? Do they finally betray each other?
Things are getting spicy in here, man.
Jim Harbaugh, after, probably the oldest guy here. Yeah, definitely the oldest guy here. Still hanging around at number 2.
He's got another old
Love
head.
to see those
up.
stories. Just like with the last year, how Gunther was the number 1 slot, lasted all the way to the end with Cody Rhodes. Steve, I like how you're bringing that up. You got to mention like what kind of weight that it is, because I could definitely argue with Mike McCarthy. Just as an example. 290's very generous with him.
At least we know we got the confidence.
Yeah, I am so just struck with the idea that they have decided to keep Mike McCarthy for another year.
I thought that was where Bill Belichick was going to head, not going to lie.
All right, so we are getting the report. Harbaugh big boots Aaron Glenn over to the top rope as he looks at Ben Johnson with a sinister smile, and Ben Johnson is ooh. Well, there you have it, folks. Well, Aaron Glenn out of here. What's going on, Blackberry? Still tuning into the Royal Rumble. And we're going to get ourselves started with the next entrant. So, number 12. And it is Joe Brady.
My guy.
So let me get this. Let's talk about why he's a candidate. There are very few men who have gained respect for his work at the pace Brady has in the last 5 years. Since landing in the national spotlight throughout the LSU Tigers run to the national championship in 2019, Brady's name has been tossed around in almost every coaching candidate pool. The offseason's coaching carousel is no different. What sets Brady apart amongst some of the up-and-coming young minds of the next NFL era is the success he's seen quarterbacks have when working with him. Most recently, in his first year with Josh Allen in Buffalo, Brady helped Allen to a Pro Bowl year as well as MVP consideration. Though it didn't work for Brady in Carolina from 2020 to 2021, Brady did lead an offensive unit that became the fifth unit in the Super Bowl era to produce 4 different players with over 1,000 scrimmage yards. Brady's lone year with LSU saw him work alongside Joe Burrow, who won the Heisman Trophy that season. It's no secret that the Falcons are in the quarterback market. Owner Arthur Blank and team CEO Rich McKay said that after parting ways with Arthur Smith on January 8th, that the Falcons' job was desirable because whoever is coming in as the next head coach has the chance to pick their own partner at the quarterback position. There are very few candidates with more success than Brady coaching top-tier quarterbacks. If the Falcons need a quarterback whisperer, perhaps that's Brady. Strikes against, though. Like other men The Falcons have interviewed for the job of head coach. Brady has never been a head coach in his career. Unlike some of the other candidates, Brady has never been a head coach at any level, college or pros. At 34, Brady is also one of the youngest candidates the Falcons have announced to this point.
Is it me, or does this seem like we're trying to make Terry Fontenot look like he has some power, so we're gonna take a guy that he has familiarity with? Because he was so before Terry Fontenot was hired back in 2021.
Well, let me read this then for the Falcons connection. There are a few tangential connections from Brady to the Falcons. For starters, Brady spent the 2017 and 2018 seasons in New Orleans as an offensive assistant for the Aints. Current Falcons general manager Terry Fontenot was high up in the Aints front office at the time, and defensive coordinator Ryan Nielsen was coaching the defensive line in New Orleans at that point too. Brady has also faced the Falcons defense a handful of times as an offensive play caller with Panthers from 2020 to 2021. The Panthers went 2-2 against the Falcons in those two seasons. Furthermore, a CBS correspondent, Jonathan Jones, said on Friday, Brady also interviewed for the head coaching job in Atlanta back in 2021, prior to Arthur Smith being named head coach.
It sounded like it was almost a head coach before Arthur came in there, had that final surge. That was like last 5 days before he got hired. Because I think we had 2 interviews with Joe Brady and 2 interviews with Arthur Smith. And they were like both in like high consideration, and we were almost there, or well, he was almost there to being hired, and then some popped out with Dr. Smith, and then more rumors started popping around, and then of course I think actually today was the day he got hired. If I'm correct, it was either January 13th or January 20th. It was one of those two. I know it was in the last week though. But yeah. But well, with Joe Brady this year, I think he was the passing game coordinator for the Bills before their OC got fired. I don't know why I keep forgetting his name, because he was I remember it for other reasons, but the main reason I remembered it because of the temper tantrum he had against the Dolphins. When he just literally threw every single piece of paper he had.
And up in the booth.
Yeah, Ken Dorsey. Yeah. But Ken Dorsey's offense looked so lethargic, so of course they ended up firing after that loss they had to the Broncos. And then ever since then, Joe Brady's had this offense rocking. Dalvin Cook has had a surge since Joe Brady took over. He loves involving his running backs, whether that's in the run game or the pass game. Of course, we've seen that at LSU when he had Clyde Edwards-Helaire having like 1,500 yards or 1,200 yards of all scrimmage yards. Knows how to get his wide receivers open. He learns a lot of like curls, outs, crossing routes, slant routes. And then when he gets you guys to come up, oh, now we're going to run a play action. Let's send a guy deep, He loves his screens. Let's get that right. He will give his playmakers their time to shine. Does include the slot wide receiver a lot. I've kind of noticed that with Shakir down there in Buffalo. They do a lot of end arounds, a lot of pop passes, these little quick outs in the slot, screen passes in the slot. So he involves his slot wide receivers a lot. He's kind of one of my
really justifying all of the praise that Brett Coleman had for him.
Yeah, basically, ever since he really took over. And I was kind of surprised that he didn't get the offensive coordinator job up there anyway over Ken Dorsey, because I was like, he kind of, if he had better talent in Carolina, it kind of looked like he had a better offense than what people were giving him credit for before he got scapegoated by Matt Rule and got fired. So I would be ecstatic with this hire. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna tell you my top 5 choices at the end of the video after we finish the Royal Rumble, but he's also in my top 5 of coaches that I like, just really would like love for us to have. I've kind of paid close attention to him since they were talking about Arthur Smith could get fired back in like week 16, 15, something like that. So with him, him and Jaden Daniels in this system, or him and Justin Fields in this system would just bring tickets to the seats. It'd be wonders. And I feel like if since he's took over Josh Allen, they said he feels a lot more comfortable. He looks a lot more comfortable. He's not. I mean, of course, he's still making dumb interceptions. I mean, it's Josh Allen. He's like Brett Favre, but bigger. Makes a play, but then he has those couple interceptions. You're like, who are you throwing to? Like, what was the point? Why not run? Take the sack. Throw the ball out of bounds. Don't throw up a ball in triple coverage. But yeah,
But I could win the Super Bowl in Week 15.
Man. And also he does do a lot of QB runs too with Josh Allen. Not as much as Ken Dorsey did, because Ken Dorsey was literally getting ready to run Josh Allen's legs into the ground. But he those little quarterback power runs, QB draws, read options, pop pass, fakes, all of that. He does a lot of that with Josh Allen.
Yeah, he definitely knows his way around a scrambling quarterback, and that's one of the more intriguing things about his resume. So, all right. Well, according to D. Coleman, Joe Brady attempts to enter the Rumble with a crossbody, but is caught by Vrabel. Vrabel proceeds to throw Brady over the top rope violently. Joe Brady, is he eliminated? What do we think? Because that was pretty quick for him to have that thought process. I mean, we still got some other people in the running. Any other defenders for Joe Brady since we just finished talking about him? As we wait for that, let me get the next. Let's get this next person in ring. Well, this would have been the time for Bill Belichick to enter the Rumble.
Imagine you got hired the same, like as soon as we put this up. Oh, Bill Belichick confirms he's going to the Falcons. That would be kind of.
We come back after a couple weeks off, and then we're just predicting the future as it happens, literally.
Basically, man.
Man, all right. Well, let's take a look at this going on here. Well, this was about the second interview. Hang on. Let me get this first interview information. Really? Okay. All right, then. They didn't have any extra links about. I mean, you guys know who he is, okay?
6-time Super Bowl.
This is one of the few. This is one of the few people that don't need no introduction when it comes to this.
8-time Super Bowl champion, excluding the ones he got from being a head coach. 24 years as a head coach. Plenty of Hall of Famers to say he drafted. Now, of course, those are all before 2010. Ever since really 2010 started, he hasn't had a Hall of Fame type draft pick, which is kind of sad to say. So you know what, this is probably the most in depth we're gonna get about a head coach, man. And I want you to get in on this too. So Bill Belichick, 71 years old, will be 72 when the season starts. 6-time Super Bowl champion as a head coach. This have made the playoffs one time in the last 4 years. Of course, that time was with Josh McDaniels as OC and Mac Jones' rookie year. Of course, it would be blowing out by 30 in the wild card game by the Bills later on that season. Um,
Well, no, he made the playoffs 2019 too. Or you said last 4 years. Okay.
yeah. But so the thing with me is because I'm when I say 50-50, I mean I am like 50-50 with this move. So I'm gonna name the good side of my 50-50, I'm gonna name the bad side. The good side is one, I feel like we'd have a top five defense with him. He hasn't in the last 10 years, it's only been two times where he didn't have a top 10 defense. And both of those times they didn't win the Super Bowl. But they did make the playoffs, they just didn't win the Super Bowl. So I feel like he take the talent that we have, add a couple pieces to it in the pass rush department, maybe add a corner or something, or re-sign Jeff Okuda and or see what we have in Clark Phillips and go with it. Um, so that's the good side. Top five, maybe top three defense. Number two, the trenches are going to be set. Now, of course, the trenches are pretty much already set on both ends. David Onyemata, Grady Jarrett. Of course, the offensive line is literally top five. Might be the best offensive line in football. Just so much continuity and I can't. Well, yeah, experience too. Because other than Lynch, I mean, not other than Bergeron, everybody on that O line has started for at least 3 years minimum. So that's one. I mean, well, that's two. Three, I feel like he would have like a no nonsense type of coach. Like we're not doing all the distractions, all of that other stuff that we used to do. This is the now Atlanta Falcons, not the old Atlanta Falcons. So I feel like in game calls, different game days type stuff. Maybe that's something that we need. So now I'm gonna name. Oh yeah, also number four, he'd probably most unlikely. I mean, not most likely. Most likely involve Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and Bijan Robinson, just because he's usually done that with his top weapons all the time, making sure each player gets the ball in a certain amount of games. I mean, a certain amount of times in a game and throughout the season. So now it's on to the bad things. One, the guy turns 72 when the season starts, so we know he's not going to be here for the next 10 years. So that's not something any Falcon fan needs to be thinking about. Bill Belichick is probably going to be retiring in 2027, 2028, something around there, passing the torch to another guy if he is hired here. Number two, the one position that we need most dearly on this team, he has been terrible at finding. And when I mean terrible, I mean other than Tom Brady, every other coaching stint he's had, either with the Browns or the Dolphins, or even the last 3 years he's had with trying to find a quarterback, have all been duds. And when I mean duds, I mean absolute stinking duds. Starting from Cam Newton to Mac Jones to Bailey Zappi, it's been bad. Okay. Three, he's been terrible at drafting, like god awful. Not a single first or second round pick since 2015 has re-signed with
Now,
him.
to be fair, he's not going to be the general manager.
Yeah, no. That now, see, that's now the thing about that is though. The thing about that is though, since Terry Fontenot went to the meeting with him, well, with Arthur Blank and Richard McKay, we kind of can calm on he's gonna have full control. No, he's not. I don't think they're gonna fire Terry Fontenot. He's done a lot, even though other than the quarterback debacle, he's done a lot as far as cap space, signing guys, finding guys underground, D. Alford, Laquel London, Timmy Horn, Storm Norton, those type of guys, fixing up the trenches, signing guys like David Onyemata and Caden Ellis and Jesse Bates, and drafting guys like Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Marco Helms, Bijan Robinson, Clark Phillips, Matthew Bergeron, all those type of guys. So he's done a lot. Ebby Katie, Troy Anderson, if he didn't get hurt, so he's done a lot over the last 3 years to build this team to where it is now, which is he's really the reason where this team is where it's at now, to where you can say if we do get a quarterback, whether that's in the draft, free agency, or through a trade, we can most likely win 10 or 11 games next year and go on a little run. So that's the good thing. The only bad thing, and the last bad thing that I'll say is that the last I want to look at his pedigree, and most times when you look at a person's pedigree, you're like, okay, they look pretty good. 6 Super Bowls, countless players sent to the Pro Bowl, All Pro, Hall of Fame, countless games won, literally 15 wins away from having the most wins as a head coach in NFL history. But the last 2 years, he's won 10. He's went 10 and 23 in the last 2 years, or 6 or 9 and 24 in the last 2 years. I forgot how many games he won last year. I think it was. Did he go 7 and 10 last year, or was it 6 and 11?
I think it was 7 to 10.
Yeah, because he was selecting Christian Gonzalez. Yeah, so they went 7 and 10 because they had the 14th pick in the draft, so they went 7 and 10. But yeah, going 10 and 23, well, 11 and 23 in the last 2 years is kind of screaming like, is the game passing him by? Is he, does he still have it? Can he coach? Now, of course, I think more of Bill Belichick, the GM, rather Bill Belichick, the coach, got him fired from New England. But if you really want to think about it, it's kind of like it's a 50-50 shot this works out and he gets you a ring or he gets you to a playoff berth or something like that. It's also a 50-50 shot. You sign a quarterback, it doesn't work out. Now you're 5 steps back and probably losing either Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, or Drake London because somebody's going to have to get paid in the next 2 or 3 years. Really only Drake London and Kyle Pitts and AJ Terrell. But yeah, those would be my only concerns with that. Would I take him over any of the coaches we have now? Probably. See, the thing is, he's one. I have one more guy on my top.
Well, before you continue with that, let's get some more commentary over here because Vrabel and Belichick are having a stare down right now. Vrabel mouths, "You taught me everything I know." Bill mouths, "I have no son," and then low blows Vrabel as he's hunched over. Bill throws Vrabel over to the top ropes, and that means that D. Coleman
has eliminated Mike
Vrabel, which means we have Jim Harbaugh, Bobby Slug, Ben Johnson, Bill Belichick, with 2 contestants remaining. Speaking of those contestants, who will the other person be? And it is Ejiro Evero.
Yeah, I wasn't going to embarrass myself trying to say his first name. Ejiro. Didn't we try to interview him last year for the defensive coordinator spot?
I definitely heard his name before. I don't know if it was like with us necessarily.
I think because the Broncos blocked us.
All right. Well, let me get his thing up here because I do have information that I can read. All right. So, why he's a candidate. Evero has proven he can make the most out of a defense, even when its counterpart unit isn't doing so well. In 2022, when Evero was the Broncos defensive coordinator, Denver's offense was number 32 in points and scored only in points scored and 21st in total yards. It didn't crack the top 10 in any of the major statistical categories, whether that be passing yards, rushing yards, or touchdowns. The Broncos defense, however, did. It was 14th in points allowed, but number 7th in yards allowed. It was number 12th in passing yards allowed, 10th in rushing yards allowed, 5th and 10 in passing and rushing touchdowns allowed, respectively. So clearly the Broncos were able to operate better on defense with Evero than they were on offense. It was a similar situation in 2023 with the Panthers, but not as consistently obvious in the difference. Carolina's offense was 31st in points scored and 32nd in total yards. Again, it didn't crack the top 10 in any of the same major statistical categories already noted, But the defense was number 29th in points allowed, so that's not good. But fourth in yards allowed. It was also third in passing yards allowed, number 23rd in rushing yards allowed, and number 4 and 32 in passing and rushing touchdowns allowed, respectively. Clearly, the run defense struggled more than the pass, but alas, Carolina's defense still held stronger than offense overall. The past 2 seasons alone shows glimpses of Evero's potential, at least defensively. Besides, according to the Denver Post, the Broncos denied the Falcons their request to interview Evero last offseason when searching for a defensive coordinator, so there's a history of interest between the two parties. And the strikes against. Speaking of that defensive coordinator vacancy prior to the 2023 season, Ryan Nielsen got it, and he did do well with the Falcons defense. In a similar way to Evero, too, given the recent production difference between Atlanta's offense and defense. The disparity wasn't as large, though. The Falcons' offense was 26th in points scored and 17th in yards total. The defense was 18 and 11 in each regard. No need to hit the other categories here. Falcons fans get the picture.
So, I guess you can kind of say it was a blessing in disguise that the Broncos blocked us from even talking to the guy last year, because Ryan Nielsen did wonders to this defense. Who's to say he would have done the same with this defense? We don't know. He did do a pretty good job with the Panthers defense last year, though, so we can't say that. Now, the thing is, wherever he does go, he usually does have pretty good defenses. The Broncos, he was responsible for the Broncos defenses being good. Of course, responsible for the Panthers even having a good side of the ball last year before them going from being a garbage fire to a dumpster. Well, no, they were a dumpster fire last year. But, you know, they had something going on for them sometimes, you know. The thing with him is, by this point, we've seen you can do more. You can do stuff with not as much talent. I'm not saying that the Panthers defense isn't talented, but we all know that, you know, they, other than Derek Brown, J.C. Horn, and Brian Burns, who may end up leaving, that they don't have a lot of like studs on their defense or a lot of like guys you can just lean on.
There's Jeremy Chin.
Yeah, well, he didn't even play as much. Surprisingly,
yeah. I mean, as far as like the people that they have on the roster.
Oh yeah, on the roster, yeah. You know, Jeremy, if you want to come to the winning side next year, you know, just saying. But yeah, Frankie Louvu, those type of guys like that, he kind of puts everybody in the right spot in the right place. He was now I will say, even though I do dog the Panthers a lot of the scores that they had last year looked worse than what the actual game was. Because like you said, the Panthers are kind of ranked top of the league in passing yards allowed and rushing yards allowed. So they weren't really getting just ran through like how their defense used to back in 2019 and 2020. You know, like it wasn't like, you know, they're just running all over you, passing the ball whenever they want to, have all day. Like they were causing some disruption. So that's the good thing.
I mean, you got to remember, like, the Panthers never had a lead in the game in the fourth quarter. So that's where a lot of the rushing yards stems from. And that's where there's a lot of those large disparities between how they do on offense and defense. And that's why the score looks as bad as it does, because they just, for whatever reason, despite getting 2 wins out of one of us, they just they could probably win a close game if it's a low scoring bout, but the defense has done everything it could at that point in order to keep it low scoring. I just don't know if we're going to get a change on the offensive side with him that he wants, because I think that as far as what he's been able to do, I think he kind of deserves just an offense that that you would expect an NFL team to function with. And speaking of which, Houston's season is now done. But hey, like I said, quite the run. Was not expecting that. And they're easily my favorites to win the division next year.
Oh, most definitely. Jesus. That game was just 17-10. Now it's 31-10. And are they driving? Or did they just score? I think they just scored. So yeah. But yeah, season's over. But hey, like I said, man, Bobby Slowick, wanna have dinner with
So,
Arthur.
so yeah, I mean, we still have some people in the ring. We have one last person that's in the works. That's waiting around. So we have Jim Harbaugh still, Bobby Slowick, Ben Johnson, Bill Belichick, and now Evero. Any updates, D. Coleman? So what's happening here? Or should I just bring out the 15th and final contestant?
That contestant might just win it all. But I kind of know what it is, so he's probably not.
Yeah. Well, let's see. And it is Brian Callahan.
BC.
And let me just go ahead and get his information. Okay, so why he's a candidate. Callahan has helped work wonders with Cincinnati's prolific offense, which features star quarterback Joe Burrow and receivers Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. He earned further respect in 2023 when he helped keep the offense going strong after Burrow went down with an injury to his throwing hand and was replaced by backup quarterback Jake Browning. The UCLA product has been with the Bengals for 5 seasons and deserves some credit for helping Burrow develop. Callahan has previously been a quarterbacks coach for the Lions and Raiders with plenty of experience working directly with signal callers. The Falcons want someone to help guide a quarterback they'll likely acquired this goodness gracious, either through free agency or the NFL draft, and Callahan could be valuable in that endeavor. The Bengals have received 4 interviews requests for Callahan as of January 11th per NFL Network, including the Falcons. However, strikes against the Bengals featured an explosive offense that was strong statistically and in scoring during the 2021 and 2022 seasons, but relatively lackluster outside of that 2-year run.
Well, now I will say, Brian Callahan was able to do a lot, well, as much as he could with Jake Browning this year when Joe Burrow went out. I kind of like the fact he's been around some success. Well, he's coached some successful quarterbacks during the years he's coached, whether that was being a QB coach or an offensive coordinator. Um, Now, of course, when you're, you know, all pro, Pro Bowl quarterback, it has a season-ending injury. The offense kind of most of the time can drop to an all-time low. Some games they did, some games they didn't. Some games like the old Bengals. Some games they look like the Bengals that were just clueless and didn't know what to do. Now I can say before Joe Burrow got hurt, this offense was a little inconsistent, which is the reason they ended up missing the playoffs in the first place. Really, the whole team was inconsistent, but it was just like offense wasn't all the way there. Joe Burrow was playing hurt the first 5 games, I think, 4 or 5 games. Jamar Chase wasn't getting the ball. T. Higgins in and out of the game. P.S. I'm never drafting T. Higgins in fantasy ever again. And Tyler Boyd never really got the ball either. But yeah. I think if you do not draft, if you do hire Brian Callahan, you probably do end up trading for a guy like Justin Fields or drafting a guy in a draft, probably trading up for one, probably trading up to one. Well, it sounds like Caleb Williams is going to the Bears, so maybe you trade up to number 3, trade up to 4 if the Patriots don't take a quarterback. But He would probably be a good mentor for a coach. He knows how to set up, good play calls and play action and good route concepts for younger quarterbacks to grasp the game first and then explode onto the scene. Um, but would he be my first hire? Probably not. But I can't say I'd be mad at the hire just because of his pedigree and what he's done so far with what he was given and who he's coached.
Yeah. I So as far as the pedigree of everybody in here, you think Bill still got the best one, or is it someone else? Or is it Jim Harbaugh?
Well,
Is it Seth Rollins or Triple H? Like, I mean, their pedigree's pretty good. Just never know.
no, now of course the as far as like career pedigree, of course, it's probably always going to be Bill Belichick or Jim Harbaugh. More in the case of Bill Belichick. But what you have to remember is who do you think right now could either set you up for long term success, and kind of still grow their pedigree while with you. And to be honest, for me, those guys would probably be Slowick, Johnson, uh, Harbaugh, or Callahan. And the reason I say that is it's like all those guys. Well, other than Ben, I mean not Ben, other than Jim Harbaugh, all those guys are young. They all have had pretty good success in the NFL, either for a year, 2 years, couple of years. They've coached around the league for a while. They know what to do. They've been on both sides of the ball. They've all coached with quarterbacks or wide receiver or some type of offensive position. They've been around the game for a while. And they also seem really innovative with how they play call, when they call that play, how they design it. Like I said, the route concepts that Ben Johnson comes up with is fantastic. Even though Bobby Slowick's team got blown out today, I feel from what I've seen on Twitter, it seems like the O line let him down a lot today. So you can't really, say that was more on the offensive coordinator or the quarterback, whoever you want to put the blame on. Brian Callahan, like I said, has coached Joe Burrow since he was drafted. Has been around some other quarterbacks that were very successful in the league. Was able to do a lot with Jake Browning this year, out of all people. So it's kind of hard,
Shouldn't have cut him.
Hey, man, oh man, how many times have we said that before?
Enough to get tired of it.
True, but yeah.
By the way, Jim Harbaugh is 60 years old. He just turned 60 a couple weeks ago.
So at least I know we got a minimum of 10 years with the guy. That's the one thing I know. He's not retiring in the next 5 years. That's the one thing. Unless he wins a Super Bowl. If he wins like a Super Bowl or two, then it's like, well, what am I coaching for? I won a natty.
I think I still know what he's coaching for. I think the storyline is still there between them and the 49ers. Especially if we come across them in the playoffs. Oh man, that's gonna be some spicy stuff right there. I also see
wasn't the reason he got fired because he had some type of discourse with the ownership and the
I think it was like him and Jed York, and then because of that they fired him, and then they took like all of his accolades and all the things like out of the stadium and out of the locker room. Like they try to erase him from their memory of the team because of just like the ego. So to have this connection with us, possibly going back and facing them in the playoffs, like that's going to be great. Another storyline is Bill Belichick, because like after a couple of years of not being around Brady, like can you imagine if he decides to just join for an NFC South team and then wins the Super Bowl year one in the same fashion that Brady did?
Yeah,
using a team that was pretty much set up for them to succeed.
That's kind of why I think Bill Belichick is kind of coming over here, because it's like, well, I found a quarterback, I can go to the playoffs with this team.
And with our setup being the way that it is, like like you said, we could trade for one, we could draft one, we could We
got
can
the picks
sign
and we
one
got
from free agency just as is.
the picks and we got the money. So
There's
we ain't
definitely
handicapped.
routes to take.
Yeah, plenty of them. Man, and the reason it also adds a great thing on why Calvin Ridley got all those incentives, man. Because now it's for sure we have an extra third round pick. If he resigns, we for sure have an extra second, so we can now use that for leverage too. So even if we did have to trade a second for Justin Fields, still got the second round pick. He ain't get both of them off of us, and he's not even really worth 2 second round picks anyway.
So let's check up on what's happening in the ring. Brian Callahan lays waste to the other competitors as he attempts to eliminate Evero. Belichick dumps them both to the floor. Evero and Callahan are apparently both eliminated. So 15 is out, according to D. Coleman. 14 is out, leaving us with 4 competitors in the ring. Number 2, Jim Harbaugh. Number 4, Bobby Slowick. Number 7, Ben Johnson. And the number 13, Bill Belichick. So we obviously just saw what happened with Bobby. You've yet to see what's the next thing on Ben Johnson's list of things, of accomplishments to do for Detroit. We already see Jim Harbaugh leaving at the peak of his place over in Michigan as well. And then, of course, you got the age-old question, was it Brady or was it Belichick? Storylines are looking pretty good, people.
Now
we need to establish a winner.
Now, the thing is, I feel like Belichick and Harbaugh have the most to prove. Belichick wants to, 1, get that coaching record for most wins. 2, also wants to win a Super Bowl without Tom Brady. Kind of prove the fact that it was more of a 50-50 thing instead of a 70-30 thing where he just carried me, his talent and the way he played quarterback carried me into our 6 Super Bowls. John Harbaugh.
But that being said, I mean, sorry to cut you off, but as far as playoff experience, right? Because we can build a team regardless of who the coach is. But who is going to make those coaching decisions and have the experience to go into those other climates, other teams, focusing on those different weaknesses, dealing with the strength of these teams right now, and make those tough choices, make those smart decisions in order to help us move forward in the playoffs than we could with just a regular person, right? I don't know if these if these other coordinators have that just yet. Not saying that they can't develop into one, but I don't want to necessarily assume that over other people that have that history.
And they've proved it too.
Because we already seen Jim Harbaugh being at the top. And that's even with, his quarterback JJ McCarthy completing 10 passes the entire game. So he also knows how to use a running game too. That's why his tenure in San Francisco was as successful as it was.
He made Colin Kaepernick, to be honest. Alex Smith got hurt. Oh, Colin, you're up. And ever since then, household name before he was a household name for other reasons.
Yeah, and then with Ben Johnson, he's doing some wonders in Detroit.
With Jared Goff's career. Heard that one before, but he did it. He did it without using a 6'5", 250-pound running back that couldn't be tackled one-on-one. He actually spreads the ball around, uses every single one of his pieces. Very creative with it.
So which in your mind kind of seems like the odd person out here?
For me, it'd probably be Bobby Slowick just because of experience. It's not really him, his coaching. It's just the experience part. 1 year of play calling compared to 2 years with Ben Johnson, compared to 30 years with Belichick, and then compared to 15 years now with the 49ers in Michigan. And I guess you can even put in the Stanford and the other college he coached 4 days. it'd probably be Bobby Slow just because of experience.
Yeah. All right, D. Coleman. Describe how it happens. Ready? Got your final four. All right. So. Casey won't get past the Ravens defense. Too stiff. Can't bet against Mahomes. Can bet against that defense. What was the guy on NFL Network saying? Like, this is probably the best defense that Mahomes has been able to have. So can he ride the defense?
Yeah, I was gonna say I want to add a pause on that.
Just the way that MJD looked at him. Oh man, it's see, yeah, Manscaped. Hurry up and get that in there. All right, well, because I'm still having Belichick on the mind. Because what concerns me about him as well is who will his coordinators be?
And please don't make Matt Patricia the defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator because he's done that before. I'm begging you.
Yeah, and then don't make Josh McDaniels the defensive coordinator too.
Please. No, Josh McDaniels, offensive coordinator. Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that. You know, it's not my favorite, but him as offensive coordinator, the Patriots have had some of the highest scoring offenses in the league with him as offensive coordinator and him and Tom Brady. And then he proved he could do it with Mac Jones too. So, you know, did it with Cam Newton for a minute until Cam got COVID, and then after that it was over with. But yeah.
All right, so we're getting worried about what happened here. The young ODs get the better of Belichick and Harbaugh as they turn to each other. Johnson punches Slowick dead in the face. He's flustered. Johnson throws Slowick over the top rope. Slowick is eliminated, and now we have the thing where you get the three wrestlers and just tired, looking around, pointing at the sign, the Falcons and coach sign. It's going down. We have three left. Harbaugh, Johnson, Belichick. By the way, D. Coleman, you're almost there spelling Belichick's last name correctly.
I think he did that time. Almost. Did he?
No, that's it.
Oh, he put the E. What's his name spelled check with an I?
Wait, whoa, hang on. Harbaugh immediately throws Johnson over the top rope after the slow elimination. What is this? The end of the 2009 Royal Rumble? Johnson is now eliminated, and now we have a stare down. Number 2.
Arthur Blank's top
in
2
the
guys.
ring. And number 13.
Okay.
What is happening? Will it be the band of Belichick, or will it be the house of Harbaugh?
So we got, man, we got 3 straight three championship championships, national champion coaches. Everywhere he coaches, there's success. 60 years old, everyone wants him. Hot commodity, just hot, literally hot off of a national championship, and just told Michigan reporters that the next guy is up for next year, so he is most likely leaving Michigan. So if it's not us, it's somebody in the NFL. So let's get that straight. So I'm going to be unbiased here. Who do I want? Jim Harbaugh. The reason I want him, everything I've stated in the last 2 hours. Really, the 10, 15 minutes I spent on explaining about him. But I want Jim Harbaugh. It's between Harbaugh, Slowick, Johnson. Johnson got thrown over the rope immediately after punching Bobby Slowick in the face and him getting thrown over a rope. So it's between Big Bill and Mr. Jim. Jim
It's like
Slim,
Randy Orton,
Slim Jim.
Triple H,
Slimmy Jimmy.
or is it like it's probably like Shawn Michaels, Undertaker in the 2007 Rumble.
Yeah, probably. Even though I've only watched highlights of that, probably. Um, who do I want? John. Who would I think is going to get hired? Bill. The reason I say that now, the reason I say that is it's 50-50 right now in that office. And the reason I think the front office is so divided right now is that I think Terry Fondo and Rich McKay want Jim Harbaugh. I think that's why he's getting that second interview, because they're trying to convince Arthur Blank that we'll get more time out of Jim than we'll get out of Harbaugh, and it's a better chance that we succeed with Harbaugh.
Oh, I think you just said we'll get more time out of Jim than we will with Harbaugh.
Okay, there's a 50-50 chance he retires at like 65, 66, but still, you never know. Most of these coaches are coaching to their 70s, okay? So you just never know. But
okay, but you're trying to say that he's gonna be there longer than Belichick.
okay, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit. Maybe what I'm saying.
I'm just trying to help you out.
Yeah, but you know, when you think about it, okay, who's been better building rosters? I guess you can say both are pretty good at building rosters because they've both been pretty good winning in the NFL. Who's better at the quarterback position? You slightly give that to Belichick just because of Tom Brady, but then again, you can also say Jim Harbaugh because he's done it with two quarterbacks rather than just one. And if he didn't get scapegoated and just thrown out of the city by front office management and the owner, then you never know what could have happened with the 49ers after the 8-8 season in 2014. Defensive wise, they're both pretty good. They both build pretty good defense. They're both trenches guys. They both have a lot of experience, and I think that's why these two are the top two. Man, when you really think about it, and like really think about it, who do you think would be better in this Atlanta Falcons? At with the state of the Atlanta Falcons right now, like Jesse Bates, Grady Jarrett, Bijan, Drake, Kyle Pitts, AJ Terrell, Caden Ellis, David Onyemata, DeMarco Helms, Kyle Pitts, all those guys. Who do you think will probably fit better with this team, BB or Jim Harbaugh?
See, if we're just looking at the roster alone, I think that they're both at a split advantage here. Because I've seen them work with this kind of roster in the past, and they've both gotten really far. So it's not like it's an easy thing here. It's splitting hairs when it comes to that. Now, as far as like the updated times, you might lean towards Jim Harbaugh. But given that he's had a shorter path of success or just a shorter resume to deal with as far as making those those play calls and those just really critical defensive stops and all that kind of stuff, it was a good case for Belichick to still have that coaching juice left in him, if you put it that way. I don't know. We're probably going to see like a John Cena Batista. They're both falling on the floor at the same time. And then Arthur Blank is going to come out rolling, getting all mad. And actually, I'd want to see Rich McKay just go around out there getting all mad, blowing out both his quads as he approaches the ring.
Now, see, the good thing about both of these is that we don't have to wait till Super Bowl week to hire them, just because neither one of these guys are coaching an NFL team right now, and neither one of them are in the playoffs. So that's the good thing. That's the almighty great thing, is that we could literally hire these guys next month. Well, Harbaugh's interviews next Monday. So like maybe, hey, we might even hire them. Might just, hey, don't leave Atlanta. Go in and go look for an apartment. Go look for a house. Tell your wife and kids you're coming down here. Well, your wife, his kids may be growing if he has any. But tell your wife and your grandchildren and all that you're coming down to Atlanta. Find a nice spot and start looking for a quarterback and some offensive coordinators, DB coaches. Might want to keep Ryan Nielsen around to coach that defense. Never know. And yeah.
Well, let's take a look what's happening on the ring. Started with Mucho Grundy. He says Bill pulls up his hoodie, looks at the crowd, and sees someone telling him the move that he does next. He counters, pulls off the hoodie, chokes him with it, and bringing Jim down. And the countdown begins. And then D. Coleman says, "In a clash for the ages, Belichick still didn't get the spelling. It's an E or it's an ICK at the end, but and Harbaugh goes to war." Bill has John on the ropes. Bill runs full speed to attempt an elimination, but Jim pulls the ropes down. Bill's gone. Bill's gone. Bill's gone. And Jim Harbaugh is your winner
Next
in this Royal Rumble. What do you mean? How is that your reaction? You made this. You were scripting the event. Why are you mad?
Keith, you're most definitely right about that, though. They probably are going to want a coach before Senior Bowl. It's kind of mandatory, to be honest, because it's like you don't want to have a Arizona Cardinals. They're hiring a head coach the week before Senior Bowl. Now y'all got to rush and get everything together. You're getting draft boards together a week before. Guys you want, who you want to look at specifically and everything. So, yeah. Senior Bowl is what, the first week of February, first or second week of February?
I think around that time, yeah. It's going to happen in between, like, the same time as the Pro Bowl, right? So,
yeah. Senior Bowl dates.
Or am I thinking of the West Shrine game?
February 3rd, 2024. That's
okay.
the Senior Bowl game. So, yeah, they're most likely, because the Senior Bowl runs through, it starts when is January 27th? Whenever that Monday is for
next week.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so we're hiring a coach this week. We're most definitely doing that. Because I think the top two options are Harbaugh and Bill, and they're most likely not going to want to wait. So yeah, expect a hire between January 22nd and January 27th. And yeah.
Well, D. Cohen, manually correct your autocorrect this time, all right? But,
2 hours, 30-minute line. That may be our time. That may be no. We had a longer line. Now I think our longest line was like 250. I think it was like 250.
Dude, I had a 5-hour one for the draft. Like,
I mean, between us, I know the one we had in the draft was like 5 hours. That was.
I think we had one that was approaching 3 hours. It was a bit closer to this one.
I know what was that last year draft or the 2022 draft where we had like a 5-hour live, 5.5 hour live.
I would have had them in the year before.
Because I know on day one, everybody was Lorex, Mike, K-Styles, Jew was in there for about a good hour and a half. You were in there for basically from when the last 30 minutes of Jew and then after until the draft ended. I was in there. I know it was a couple other people that was in there. Yeah. It's probably going to end up happening again this year with whoever we select, because it might just be a quarterback. Might be talking about a quarterback for 4 hours.
Yeah, it's possible. And that's the other thing too. It's like Jim Harbaugh won't have to scout. He's just gonna have to select. So I don't know if we're gonna have a bunch of like Michigan guys, or if he is willing to, scope out more people.
Might just drive a whole bunch of Ohio State and Michigan people. Trade up from Marvin Harrison. Go get J.J. McCarthy second round. Draft the Michigan safety that was talking about Marvin Harrison with the Louis Vuitton cleats and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, don't remind me. Come on.
Oh yeah. I couldn't do day 3. I had a 7-on-7 tournament to do that day. I was checking in on you guys frequently though, because I was like, there's no way these guys literally went from the 12th pick on to 253, and it was you and a couple other people that stayed there for the entire thing.
It
6
was
hours.
me. It was Jarvis. He was definitely there. It was
Rip was there for a little bit, I think.
mm,
Or was that the draft the week
Tyrone
before
was there.
Yeah, Tyrone was there. Rip did a couple of
What happened to him? I gotta check up on him.
He's been in a Discord frequently.
I don't think he's been
On the live. I don't think he hasn't been on a live with us since the 2020, since the week before we had a mock draft and he was there.
Well, who are you talking about?
That might have been 2022.
I'm talking about Tyrone.
Oh, Tyrone. Oh, yeah, that was yeah. He hasn't been on the live with us since day 3.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with Alex, but
oh yeah, what did happen to Alex?
I just told you I don't know. You don't know what you don't know, you know?
Yeah.
Of course you don't. That's the whole reason why I said it. All right. Well, I think that's going to conclude it. I hope we've been very reminiscent of Michael Cole and Pat McAfee and possibly Corey Graves. I don't know. Maybe Booker T. As an announcer.
Mel Kiper.
Hmm?
Mel Kiper.
What the heck is Mel Kiper?
You ever thought about what it'd be like being on a Pat McAfee show? That'd be fun, man.
I mean, we're pretty used to 3-hour-long shows.
Very much.
So, all right. Well, that's going to be it for us. I normally would do a grid afterwards, but I am hungry and everything. And I got somewhere else to be. So we will have to save that for the next time. And I don't know when we're going to do the soundtrack bracket. I still got that in the works. I don't know if I can get it done tomorrow. We'll have to see what happens there. If we can, then you'll see it on Sunday, and we'll have it ready to talk about the UFC soundtracks. And I still got to work on that. Getting everything to fit in right as far as the number of songs that we'll talk about then. And in the meantime, well, here's the start of the season, start of the new year. So buckle down with us again. And if you're new, well, glad you made it this far. And we will see you next time what we have. All right, guys. Take care.